Today's lesson is percent change. Now this is one of those lessons and one of those concepts in math that we use all the time in the real world. All the time in the real world. Now, whether you're just trying to find the increase or the decrease of something, or whether you're at a restaurant or a store and you're dealing with tax and discounts or the tip if you're at a restaurant, you will use this all the time. Now, there are 3 individual scenarios when it comes to percent change, and I'll be sure to say here's one scenario, here's the next one, here's the next one. But if you're paying attention, if you pay really close attention, you'll notice that the pattern for doing all 3 scenarios is basically the same thing. It just changes slightly depending on what you know and what you need. Okay? So even though I will tell you here's the first scenario, here's the next one, try paying attention to the overarching pattern and see if you can catch the similarities between the scenarios. Also, for those of you following along in the book, this is the book lesson. All right, this is the online day. So in Blackboard or MySJ, this is what I'll be naming the lesson. Online day is lesson 2 or is 2.5. Let's get started. Now the first thing you got to know about percent change is the definition. Sounds obvious? I know. And the definition of percent change is the ratio of the change in an amount to the original amount. Okay, so again, it is the change in an amount to the original amount expressed as a percent. Okay, but it's mainly the change between the 2 amounts, the old one and the new one. Now, when your new number is greater than the original number, that's percent increase. When the new number is less, that's percent decrease. And so in a lot of problems as we go forward, it'll talk to you about percent increase or the percent decrease of an item. Okay, this is what we're talking about. After you've taken the difference between the 2 numbers, the difference is either greater than the original number or less than the original number. And the names are pretty self-explanatory, so if you forget, just look at the name. Now, the way you find these numbers is through a 2-step process. Okay? The first thing you're going to do is you're going to subtract the original amount from the final amount. So in this first example, I have 23 minus 20, which is 3. Now, since my final amount is greater than my original amount, this is clearly going to be a percent increase problem. I'm just keeping that in the back of our minds as we go forward. Now, once I have my difference, I'm going to write a ratio with the change over the original amount. Yes, I wrote OG. It's easier to write. So that means my ratio is going to be 3 over 20. My change over my original amount is equal to my percent. So R over 100. And the reason why it's 100, let me erase this over here. The reason why you have R over 100 is because percents are out of 100. Now I have a proportion and I can solve the way I normally solve proportions, by cross multiplying. So that's 3 times 100 is equal to R times 20. 300 is equal to 20R. And now I'm solving for R. So divide by 20, divide by 20, and I am left with 15 is equal to R. Okay. Now, since this is a real-world example, you do have to say what it is you found in terms of the real world. So my correct answer, or my complete answer, I should say, is that the percent increase is 15%. Okay. Now, using symbols is fine. Just make sure you write this as a sentence. Okay. You do the next one, and then the video will play again, and we'll compare answers. Here we go. So again, the first thing you're going to do is subtract. So I have 17 minus 25, and that's going to give me a negative 8. Okay, if I didn't already notice from the original problem, since my difference is a negative number, I know this is going to be a percent decrease. Set up my ratio with the change over the original amount. So that's negative 8 over 25 is equal to R over 100. I'm going to cross multiply. Negative 8 times 100, R times 25. And now I'm solving for R. Divide away from R. And I'm left with 32 equals R. My complete answer is that the percent decrease is 32%. Now notice that in my sentence, I don't write negative 32%. Okay, it's just 32%. The reason why I don't need the negative symbol is because percent decrease already tells me that information. All right, I'm decreasing from the original amount by 32%. So in my answer, I don't need to rewrite the negative sign. Okay. Go ahead and try these two on your own. And here are your answers. A couple things I want you to notice. Actually, two things. Number one is that this step up here, I reduced my fraction. This still works. You always can reduce your fractions before you multiply. It just saves you from having to divide bigger numbers down here. Okay. The second thing I want you to notice is that in both of my answers, I rounded my decimal. Okay. Always pay attention to the instructions of the problem, but the typical instruction is round to the nearest hundredth. Okay. So, but always pay attention to the instructions of the problem. Sometimes those instructions change, but in these two problems, I rounded to the nearest hundredth. Okay. So both of these problems were straightforward. Here's your original amount. Here's your new amount. What's the percent change? There are other examples where you're given the new amount and the percent change, and you're told to find the original amount. So in this instance, here's our word problem. We're told that we have a percent increase of 10%, and that there are 17.2 million passengers in 2009. How many were there in 2007? Okay. In this problem, there are a few different ways to read it. I'm going to show you the way the book does it and the way that makes the most sense to me, because in this instance, they're the exact same thing. So first of all, we need our variable and to understand what we're going for. So I'm going to read it again. The total number of passengers on a cruise ship increased by 10% from 2007 to 2007. If there were 17.22 million passengers in 2009, how many were there in 2007? So we're trying to find the original amount. I'm going to make my variable, in this case f, and so this is my original amount. Now I'm going to set up my equation. So my original equation is the change over the original amount. I don't really know what my change is, but I can create an equation for it. I'm going to change colors so you can see what I'm doing. So I know that I have 17.22, and minus my original amount would give me the change. Okay, so literally the only thing I did is I'm inserting this step right here into the top of my ratio, since I don't know what the actual change is. So I have 17.22 minus f over f, since f is my original amount, And that's going to be equal to 10 over 100, because 10 is my r. Now I cross multiply like normal. So I have 100 times 17.22 minus f is equal to 10f. Make sure you distribute. If you do not distribute, you will get something very, very weird. And now I'm just going to solve for f. So add 100f to both sides. 1,722 is equal to 110f. Divide away. And we are left that f is equal to about 15.65, which means that in 2007, the original number of passengers was 15.65 million. And there's your answer. Okay. The third situation is tax. Before we get to tax, I do want to talk about one thing. So, how to change percents into decimals and decimals into percents. Now, you've probably already learned this in middle school. That's okay. We're going to go over it again. When you're going from a decimal or from a percent to a decimal, you are moving the decimal place 2 points up, 2 places up. So if here's my decimal place, do it in red. If here's my decimal place, I'm going to move it up 2 places. So the decimal version of this would be 0.07. Okay, same thing over here with this one. Here's my decimal place. I'm going to move it up 2 places. And so my decimal of 35% would be 0.35. But when I'm going from a decimal to a percent, I'm going to go backwards. Okay, so in math, if you can go forward, odds are you can go backwards as well. And even greater odds, that's the next thing you're going to learn. So when you're going from a decimal to percent, if you moved the decimal place forward in the last problem, this one, you're going to move it back. So 2 places back. The percent for 0.12 is 12%. Same thing for number 2. I'm going to move it back 2 places. 2, and now I have 0.3%. Okay. Don't get thrown off if you have decimals already in your number. It's fine. Just move the decimal either forward or backwards, depending on if you're going from percent to decimal or decimal to percent. Now that we've gone over that, let's get to tax. Now, tax is probably the situation of percent change you'll see the most often. Not that you won't see the others a lot, but this is probably the one you encounter most often. So, a bit of vocab on the top. Sales tax means you have a percent increased, and discounts mean you have a percent decrease. So let's go through both these examples, setting up and solving. So in the first one, we are purchasing wire and beads to make jewelry. Her merchandise cost $28.62 before tax. If tax is 7.25%, what is the final cost? So here is our OG amount. Here is our tax, or here's our rate of change, and we need to find the new price. So these problems always have 2 big steps. First thing you're going to do is find the tax. What is the tax in dollars? Because right now we only have the rate of tax, so the tax is 7.25%. That's lovely, but we don't have an exact amount for that. So first off, find the tax in dollars. Then you're going to find the new price. Okay, so we'll do this in phases. First is find the tax, then find the new price. Okay, well, when I want to know what my tax is, I need to figure out how much of the original price is 7.25. In order to do that, the first thing I do is turn my percent into a decimal. So 7.25% is equal to, move my decimal place up to, 0.0725 at the decimal. Okay, so then when I go to find my tax in dollars, I'm taking 7.25% of my original price, and that's going to be equal to my decimal times the original price, which ends up being 2.0749, etc., etc. This is a decimal, though. We need to find tax in dollars. So my tax in dollars is going to be $2.07. All right. Now that I have my tax in dollars, I need to find my new price. To find the new price, I look at my problem again and notice that I have a sales tax. Okay, so we're adding this tax onto the original price, which means, as I just said, we are adding. So when I go to find the new price, I'm going to add my tax, $2.07, to my original amount. So the problem is going to be $28.62 plus $2.07, which means my total cost is $30.69. Okay, but in order to find the new price, you have to pay attention. Is this a sales tax or a discount? That's going to change what you do with your tax. All right, let's go on to the next one. In this problem, we have another situation. So Tyrell has earned good grades in school. He qualifies for a good student discount. Keyword being discount. His monthly payment without the discount is $85. The discount is 20%. How much does he pay each month? So I'm going to label my problem. Always, whenever you have word problems, label your pieces. Okay? It sounds like a small little in-between step, but it really does help you plug into the equation because there's a lot of information going on here. So read the problem, underline important information, and then label your information. So $85 is my original amount. 20% is my rate. This is my new price. So same process as the last problem. First, we have to find our tax in dollars, which means I need to figure out what 20% is as a decimal. So I'm going to move the decimal place up 2 places, and I have 0.2. So that means that 20% of my original amount is going to be equal to 0.2 times 85, which is 17. Which means that I have a $17 discount. This is my discount. So to find the new price, I need to subtract the original amount from, or my discount from the original amount, which means I'm going to have $85 minus $17, and that's going to give me 68. So the total price with discount Tyrell is paying $68 on car insurance. Okay, that's all I got for you guys. If you have any questions, make sure you write them down, ask in class, and I will see you next time.